a swine flu pandemic that could kill millions of Americans again. So what happened? The exact same thing I'm going to outline that is happening today happened back in 1976. The United States Centers for Disease Control mobilized, began purchasing massive mega doses of swine flu vaccination to inoculate all Americans if possible. Many, many millions of dollars were spent by our government and enriched the pharmaceutical cartels for this swine flu vaccination. What stopped it? Simply that the American people and public had warning voices given to them by honest medical practitioners. And the problem that Americans faced then, 5% of the people that were given this vaccine died immediately, and over 10% of those receiving this vaccine were crippled, maimed, and wheelchair-bound for life. We see there that this vaccine for the swine flu was deadly. It killed people and crippled people back in 1976. Lucky for America, Congress stepped in, intervened, and stopped this insanity. No more swine flu pandemic rhetoric was issued anywhere in the country. That's a key to understand. I remember I graduated from high school in 1977. I remember in 1977 early, I remember watching Saturday Night Live and watching those skits that was put on mocking the swine flu. People get sick and they turn into a pig. I mean, Dan Aykroyd and Belushi and those guys. It was funny and we laugh about it, but it was serious business. 5% of those receiving the vaccination died quickly. 10% were maimed for life. Let's turn the clock ahead to May 1987. The Times of London reports on its front page in May of 1987 that smallpox vaccine administered by the World Health Organization had in fact triggered HIV/AIDS. Again, going back to 1974 and Kissinger's secret memorandum, we find, and this is again repeated and verified and validated by the Times of London, that it was United States manufactured smallpox vaccine that in fact triggered the HIV/AIDS epidemic. The same article in 1987 showed that 100 million smallpox vaccinated Africans are at high risk for HIV and AIDS. And the Times report said that areas with the highest vaccination rates of smallpox vaccines show the highest HIV/AIDS rates worldwide. Robert Gallo, who discovers a man given credit for the HIV/AIDS virus detection, firmly defended those figures in debate and says, quote, "The problem we have is all AIDS researchers are keeping their mouths shut. Why? Because they are paid to do so." Again, let me quote that. AIDS researchers will keep their mouths shut because they are paid high sums to do so. November 28th, 2002, let's move forward. A rider tacked onto the end of the Homeland Security bill, amazingly, confers immunity from liability prosecutions to Eli Lilly, Sanofi Pasteur, and all other manufacturers of vaccines. Why would this be tacked on to the Homeland Security bill, the Patriot bill, giving complete blanket immunity from liability prosecution from Eli Lilly, once again, Sanofi Pasteur specifically, and other manufacturers of vaccines? Well, maybe we can set the stage here. There's many other instances where the World Health Organization, which is again largely funded by the Rockefeller Foundation, Ford Foundation, and the Rothschild Group in London, to absolutely control population for specific political purposes worldwide. There is no doubt in my mind whatsoever. I can go on for the next half an hour to show specific programs designed to kill large amounts of people, and it does this in every single case by means of vaccination introduction. We can see a pattern of a modus operandi in this. Introduce a vaccine to unsuspecting population centers, cause massive sickness, massive death, massive panic, massive chaos, and then they step in and have the agenda completed. It's the same old problem-reaction scenario. They create the problem, they dictate the response, and then they have the prescribed action already made. So with that as a backdrop, let me go right into the presentation tonight. It's entitled The Bird Flu Hoax Exposed. Let's go ahead and take a look at the chart on the screen. I'm sure we can all agree that we have had in the last 3 to 4 years what I would call unprecedented fear-based rhetoric generated nationwide. We saw, many Americans saw in 2006, made-for-TV movie, whereas were depicted millions of deaths of Americans, and hospitals overrun with sick, hospital workers becoming ill, doctors becoming ill, sick people lining up outside the door of hospitals blocks and blocks wide without anybody to take care of them. We saw also and have heard many talk show hosts, Oprah Winfrey for one, having guest experts explain the coming catastrophe of the bird flu and its economic devastation. Again, I emphasize economic devastation on America. We see the ex-Utah Governor Mike Leavitt's Health and Human Services Department, the HHS, receiving nearly $4 billion for what? To prepare for what? The, quote, inevitable pandemic. Inevitable pandemic, in Mike Leavitt's own words. $4 billion. Unprecedented rhetoric and hype. We need to say a few words about what I'm going to present tonight. It may not be popular, it may not be politically correct, because it's going to go directly against what you see on the nightly news and TV channels. But we're going to talk tonight about truth. Let me just say this about truth. Truth wears no mask. It should never be hidden. Truth, she seeks neither place nor applause. She bows to no human shrine. She only asks a hearing. That's what I'm going to be doing tonight, is giving truth a hearing. I'm not asking anybody to believe what I'm saying. I'm not asking anybody to follow true art in a crusade of any kind. I'm not asking that. I'm just asking you to listen and to give a hearing to what I believe is truth. Important truth that can save your life and save your loved ones' lives as well. So, should America and Americans be concerned about this? Let me just submit this. Fear, panic, and terror are largely caused by ignorance. Folks, once a topic is completely understood, I submit there is much less anxiety, much less fear. And let me emphasize that the root word of pandemic is the word panic. Panic and pandemic are synonymous. This presentation tonight is primarily designed to explain the so-called bird flu with logic, and to do this in order to help reduce fear and panic. I would submit that the individual